item on the agenda is the chair's report, and I had wrote it up, but I'll just sort of go over it. Part of it was, and it is referring to that Tier 1B, that agenda setting. The February 25th Select Board meeting turned out to be the best timing for the Tier 1B, according to the town manager and the planning director. And then we talked about the opioid settlement and thought we could probably do a better job of sorting out how we wanted to award money, perhaps after town meeting, that we might be better prepared. So yeah, sort of put that. Since our last meeting, Matt forwarded the contact information for the Norwich Times, which has a new editor.
Oh,
And she had contacted him and he didn't have time to write an article. So I kind of quickly wrote an article for the spring edition.
thank you.
Well, I just, yeah, try to keep it kind of human interest. So I wrote it about the long-term and short-term timelines that we have to deal with, like our cyclical ones, like the AP warrant, and then the really long ones like the capital planning or keeping track of large projects. So that was the content on that. I had asked the board to kind of start thinking about what we call the parking lot, the topics that we either want to cover or sort of in the middle of dealing with and don't want to lose track of, and asked for just feedback on how the parking lot looked. I think I sent out a memo on February 1st. So Chemo had said his list was Article 36, comprehensive energy strategies for the town, communication, website safety, infrastructure improvements, potential improvement. I don't know quite what that means, and goals for a town manager. Marcia had said, and that was for both the select board and town manager's parking lots suggested. Marcia suggested for both select board and town manager, develop a town charter. And I assume that would have something to do with perhaps the fire district. It probably has to do.
I don't know what a town charter is.
It's kind of a way to, it might be a way to incorporate both municipalities into an entity that could function, you know, more smoothly. Would you say that, Marcia? Or?
No.
Oh, okay.
A charter, if you look in the statutes, 24A, it's got all the town charters that people have put together. And they might be one paragraph, they might be multiple paragraphs. And it's towns looking at the statutes, which apply to us, and saying this particular statute doesn't fit for us. We want it to do it differently. And that has to be put together and blessed by the legislature. And if it's approved, then it's part of your town charter. So you're still subject to the statutes, but that change that you've made is going to apply to you, but not to other towns.
So it could be a large scale change or a small scale.
Right.
Okay. I have a short list. I wanted to look into getting a draft of select board policy for tax exempt properties for when we want to choose to put them on the warrant. That's coming up as an agenda item tonight to see whether anybody's interested in having me do that or don't want me to do that. Number 2 is to pick up on the finance committee has a request for studying the surplus and deficit situation at budget time. That's been on there for a while. Scope and timeline for Tracy Hall renovation. I'd kind of like to figure out to what degree we're going to actually renovate and put it on a timeline. And then possibly to research a weekend date for next year's informational meeting to see if that's realistic. And then the last part of my, the last part has to do with correspondence. And when we get down to receipt of correspondence, I'll list all the different ones, but I will say that I did get a piece of correspondence, or the select board received a piece of correspondence from Will Smith at the select board at Norwich, Vermont address. And it was submitted and it was in the packet. And he emailed me on Saturday, February 7th, asking me to remove the item from the packet And then Pam, his wife, texted me on Tuesday of this week, also asked me to remove the item from the packet. So I spoke to is that that's Marcia's wish. Is everyone else okay in understanding what she's requesting of the fire district? Because this was a follow-up from our meeting where we were requesting material about the this list of
We talked about that. Executive session.
okay. Okay, so these would be the properties that were involved in that, incorporated in that PVR 17.
They all should have separate ones.
They all should have separate
We
ones.
should look at those.
Okay. Do you want to send me out again, you guys? Because the instructions I have were not this detailed. Like I didn't ask questions based on this. Maybe you all want to take a look at that. This is not on our agenda.
No, I was gonna say, this is not on our agenda. I'm not sure why we're talking about this right now.
Because we had talked to Mary about doing a request, and I asked her
Following
to
up.
follow up and just tell us what happened pursuant to that request that we instructed her to make.
But it could have been an agenda item and it could be for next time.
Possibly it should be. I mean, I'm just,
Completely lost here.
okay.
I understand what you're
Pass
talking
it
about,
down.
but I agree. If we want to discuss it, I would put it on the agenda.
Put it on an agenda. I don't.
Oh, I didn't want to discuss it. I just said, when we talked about it, I said PBRs. And so that's the PBRs that I was
Oh, yeah,
talking about.
completely understand that.
Well, here's another thing. Pass it all the way down to Brennan. And see if electronic.
Fire district attorney's memo to the board.
Okay.
So I think these are separate and unique properties that may have gone through the same process at a different time.
Okay, so since I did not receive that list when you guys sent me out, I think we need to regroup and look at it and decide.
And maybe part of your bigger discussion when you get to talking about taxes and how you select board proceeds.
part of that policy.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay.
You can give that to Brennan.
Maybe he should send that to everybody. I don't know.
I can do that. I'm going to scan it and we'll send it.
Scan and send to everybody.
Okay.
Sure. Okay, that's not a lot. Let's get back on track with the meeting. Are there any public comments for items not on the agenda? Okay, would you like to come up here and make your comment?
Sure. Just for the folks who don't get the listserv, I just wanted to announce that I'm running for the open select board seat that Priscilla is vacating, 2-year seat. And hopefully people will write me in. I also wanted to use the opportunity, a little bit premature, but to thank Marcia and Priscilla for the work that they've done on the board for several years. It's much appreciated. Thanks very much.
Welcome. Thank you, Ron. All right, I'm noticing hands up. Let's see, Jan Losberg?
On the Tier 1B topic, just a quick report out of the Planning Commission. I heard your agenda conversation, so I won't restate that. You will focus on it in the meeting on the 25th. Just to let you know, we have a confirmed, Kyle from Two Rivers will be attending that meeting on the 25th to be able to answer questions on Tier 1B. But the report from last night's Planning Commission meeting was that the group approved the motion to recommend to the Select Board to ask for Tier 1B designation. So the recommendation from the Planning Commission is that you opt in on the village center and the village area. You'll get a note to that effect before the 25th meeting, just to let you know. So I will come, Stephen True will come, and Kyle will be there on the 25th. The only other point I'd make, we talked about this before, if there are any questions, please feel free to send them to Stephen and we can get answers rolled up and in the packet for that meeting, so we save time on the 25th.
All right, thank you. Pam Smith?
Thank you, Madam Chair. I just wanted to make a suggestion that on the back of your agenda for future meetings, I know in the past we have included the first meeting of the new board, which is the organizational meeting, which would be held on Wednesday, March 4. So just a suggestion that might be good information to include on your agendas.
Thank you. That's a very good suggestion, which I think we should take up. All right, is that Lily? I have trouble with this
Yes,
text.
it is, Lily.
Lily, would you like to speak?
Hi. Yep, I just wanted to let everybody know that ballots are in and early voting has started. I have sent out 100 absentee ballots as of today. So if anyone is listening in and would like to come to the office to pick up their own ballot, they're welcome to. They can also vote in the office during regular business hours. Thanks.
Thank you. All right, I'm not seeing any other hands. So, oops, except for Kimo. Go ahead, Kimo.
I just wanted to thank Sandy Anderson for providing the cookies.
Thank you, Sandy.
For the whole time.
May have a cookie if you like. One.
All right.
She's everywhere. Cookies.
All right, I believe it's time for number 4, our review of the auditor. We have auditors here tonight. You want to speak a little bit?
I will just queue up Rick Brigham as our lead auditor for Sullivan Powers, and he has completed the audit report for fiscal year 25, which is in the packet, and I think all the select board members have received a hard copy of that. So with no further ado, I will turn it over to Rick.
Hey, everybody, can you hear me okay?
Yes, thank you.
Okay. Thanks for having me here tonight. What I'd like to do is give you an overview of the audit report. I've already done some detailed reviews with the finance department, also with the manager, and also with the treasurer. So I've done a pretty good detailed level with all of those three individuals at separate times and all together as well. So I'm going to try to keep most of this focused high level tonight. One of the things when we met and discussed the audit, they wanted to kind of have me start at a different place than I normally would start. So one of the things, if you're looking at page 7 of the audit, this is your balance sheet of the town of Norwich at June 30, 2025. And all a balance sheet is a snapshot in time of what your assets and your liabilities look like at June 30, 25. So you take your assets minus your liabilities and you have your fund balances, what's left over. So if you're looking down the fund balances there on page 7, you can see what most people focus on is the unassigned fund balance. The town has an unassigned fund balance of 1,389,551. And last year, I believe that fund balance unassigned was 1,266,680. So it's fairly in line with where it was last year. The reason I start here is because I think there's been a little confusion that I've heard about related to whether there was a deficit or whether there was a surplus. If you go to page 8, this will hopefully clear that all up. If you're looking at the bottom of page 8, you'll see the net change in fund balance under the general fund with a negative 934.66. So basically that's your deficit for the year. Obviously, a lot of that deficit was planned with some transfers that happened out of the general fund into the fire apparatus, highway garage, and Tracy Hall fund with some articles that were voted. So if you're trying to compare back to the budget actual and trying to get to the deficit here, there's reconciling items related to that. And mostly the big balances are obviously those 3 transfers of close to $1 million that happened into those 3 funds from the general fund based on article votes. So when you're looking at the real deficit of the general fund for the year, it was 930, which took your fund balance from 3,000,004 total down to 2,005,44177. And like I said, if you're trying to break that out, you could always sneak back to pages 39 through 55. That's your budget actual that you've been seeing all year long with your revenues and expenses that were compared from budget to actual. And if you go to the last page of that on page 55 or on 56, you'll see how it reconciles back from the budget actual total of excess revenues over expenses back to the 934.66 on page 8. So that's a good kind of a reconciliation of how we get there. But I just wanted to kind of clear up if there was any confusion about whether there was a surplus or deficit. There's certainly, we spit the budget numbers back out to you based on how you budgeted and spent during the year. But there are those reconciling items for other small funds that combine with the general because they don't qualify as either a special revenue or capital project. That's like any sort of emergency reserve fund, those things that don't really qualify as capital project or special revenue. So kind of getting back to the rest of the audit, normally I start with the opinion. The only qualification on the opinion this year, again, related to the transfer station. We've talked about this over the last couple of years. I believe some changes have been made for part of the year. So we weren't able to get completeness of revenue for the whole year for the 25 audit. But in conversations with the treasurer and the manager, it looks like some policies and procedures have changed that will hopefully allow us to look at completeness of revenue down at the transfer station, cash register tapes, being able to verify between the accounting system here at your offices and at the transfer station and do those reconciliations.
I have a question about that. I don't know when we want to do questions, maybe when we have heard the presentation. completely.
That might be more efficient to
Okay.
get all the way
Yeah,
through.
like I said, I'm going to keep this up a level, so I'll be done in a few minutes, just kind of going through. So kind of going, if we go look at pages 12 through 38, if you're looking for a deeper dive on anything in the financial statements, cash, what's insured, what's collateralized, what are our depreciation methods, what debt do we have and what terms are they in? these notes to the financial statement provide a much deeper dive into a lot of those issues and questions you may have about where money can be spent, how it can be spent, the restricted fund balances and things like that. So just know that if you're looking for a deeper dive, go to those notes and you'll find a lot of great information there. And like I said, kind of looking at page 39 through 55, those are your budget actuals. And again, my guess is you've probably been seeing those pretty consistently, either quarterly or monthly from finance as to how money's being spent during the year. If you kind of look at page 40, you'll see budgeted revenues were at 6.2 million and budgeted expenses were 6 million, or budgeted actual revenues were 6.6 million. So there was a positive there, about 439,000. And then when you look at the expenditures, there was a budget of 6,868,305 on page 55. And then on page, the actual is 6,467. Again, another positive of 401,241. So if you're looking for the rest of the funds, if you're back on pages 59 through 59, 60s, 50 through 64, those are all your capital projects and your special revenue funds. So you'll see the first page on 59 is a combining schedule for the special revenue and capital project funds. And then you'll find supporting schedules right behind them for all the assets, liabilities, essentially the balance sheets and the income statements for all those funds and where they sit for the year at the end of the year.
Very nice.
Schedule, if you're going to page 69, one of the things we're required to do is communications to the board is to communicate any material weaknesses and significant deficiencies. So we did note some, again, the transfer station revenues, which we already talked about. Like I said, there should be an attachment there with the responses from management on how they're going to fix things there or how they've already fixed them. There's point number 2 was related to grants receivable, being able to book those grants receivable and the deferred inflows related to those grants at year end. Those things don't usually get booked during the year, so it's usually a year end kind of procedure. And again, I've talked with the treasurer on that, and I think she knows exactly what she needs to do for next year to make sure all those are booked appropriately before we walk in. There was, as far as reconciling year-end accounts payable, making sure that we have backup schedules. A little bit of work had to be done to get back to a reconciliation of accounts payable. So we just had to put that in as a material weakness as well. Ultimately, we were able to get there and feel comfortable with that. And then the last point, it's a significant deficiency on authorization of journal entries. There's a lot of controls and processes in the town, you know, warrants being signed, approval of invoices by department heads. This is one where we just think any journal entries that happen to the books of record just should be going through and being reviewed by another person and maybe an overview by the manager on a monthly basis to just make sure a second pair of eyes and maybe even a third pair of eyes are on all journal entries that happen to the book of original record. Other communications, required communications. We encountered no difficulties in dealing with staff or management. We had no disagreements with staff or management during the course of the audit. We had no consultations with other auditors, and all the entries we proposed were posted by management. That's kind of my quick overview. Does anybody have any questions?
I have a couple of questions.
Yep.
One is to do with the transfer station. In order to have adequate internal control at the transfer station, do we have to eliminate cash interactions completely? Like, would it be, if it was possible, if we could do a debit card or something like that? I noticed one of the suggestions was to sell the cards that are used for disposing of trash, not on site, like to do that in the town. So that's one, but also, do we have to kind of completely eliminate cash?
You don't have to. Obviously, as an auditor looking at trying to be conservative, I have other clients who ended up doing that, going completely cashless and doing credit cards and debit cards. at their transfer stations just to make sure that all the transactions were going through the books. Anywhere where you have folding green, you have risk. And
Yep.
that's what we're trying to do
Right.
as auditors, is have you reduce that risk. So for me, it's more about, okay, if you're down at the transfer station, you have a cash register, you're making sure all the money's getting into the cash register by making sure customers take receipts, a little sign, customer take receipts. The revenues come into cash register, then you start monitoring voided transactions to make sure there's no voids in the transactions. And then you start reconciling between the revenues that are generated in that cash register and the revenues that are posted to the NEMRIC system to make sure all the monies ultimately get deposited and reconciled in the bank accounts. Like I said,
Understand. Yeah.
ideally, I'd love to have a cashless system, but I think you can do it as long as you're monitoring your voided transactions, making sure everything's getting into the cash register and doing regular reconciliations from your cash register to your NEMRIC trial balances.
Right. I think the way that system is organized makes perfect sense. And I, put our transfer station workers in very high regard.
Yeah,
But I think
of course.
and just considering whoever might be handling cash there, if you don't put it within the system that you just described, if a transaction occurs where it just sort of goes into a pocket, that's the
Yeah.
weakness, I think.
Yes, exactly. And like you said,
I would never-
nobody's
never
questioning
take that-
employees. It's just questioning
Yeah,
a
no.
process.
That's the process. Thank
Yeah.
you.
Yeah.
And my other question, I'm still a little bit baffled by the surplus that was described and wondering, sometimes we have large capital needs, like when we designated the funds for the highway garage and Tracy Hall and so forth, we really had some needs that could be served by large amount of money.
Mhm.
And also we apparently, as at least as far as I understood it, had a surplus in our balance so that we could suggest to the voters that some of that be diverted for that purpose. I just don't understand why that is, why that's considered to be a deficit. And also, since we still have a lot to do on our, to improve our town hall, and I think probably also at DPW, every time that we went through a process like that where we diverted those funds, would it always be considered as a deficit? Is this just an accounting
No, anytime,
way of describing it? Or?
Yeah, think of the general fund as its own pot of money. Okay, so you had the general
Okay.
fund money, but if you're moving that pot of money from the general fund over to these other fire apparatus fund or the highway garage fund, like you did when you voted those special articles, you said, hey, we're going to take it out of the general fund pot and move it to these other funds. Now, in these other funds, they're
Okay.
income. So the fund balances for those funds go up, but the general fund goes down. So all it is moving it from one pot to another. But if we're talking the general fund surplus, that $1 million that you transferred with those three articles would be part of the expenses of general fund that would create that deficit that I went off mentioned in the 930,000.
Okay.
Yep. So
I
if
think
you,
I'm
like I
starting
said,
to.
if you're looking at page 8 of the general fund, that's all the revenues and expenses of the general fund. That's everything for the general fund. But in there and you'll see that last section called other financing sources where there's transfers out. Some of those were
Right.
budgeted transfers and appropriations to send to reserves. And another $1 million was those special articles. So those are part of your expenses, which create the deficit. If you didn't do those transfers, you'd have had a $1.1 million surplus for the
I
year.
see.
But you did those transfers. So the other reserve funds, their pools grew, their pots grew. General funds just decreased the way you wanted it to happen.
I have a follow-up question. If the voters had voted those articles down, would I would assume that it never would have been taken out of the general fund in that case.
Correct.
So then would the audit look different, or would the next year, how would that have affected how it comes across here?
Well,
It would just come as a surplus?
Yeah, let's just take this as the example. If you hadn't, like, let's say these three items that I'm talking about that totaled $1 million had been voted down, your page 8 would just be looking at almost a break even. Instead of a $930,000 deficit, you might have a $70,000 surplus.
Okay.
So you can attribute almost most of that deficit to the $1 million that you transferred to those 3 funds.
Okay, thank you.
So to state it another way, when we spend that money, that will not affect our bottom line.
When you spend it
Correct.
out of those reserve funds, it'll reflect the bottom line of the reserve funds, which I said
Right.
they're all in the back schedules there, but it won't
Yeah.
affect the bottom line of the general fund. Correct.
Okay, that makes sense. All right, thank you for that
Thank you.
explanation.
Yep.
Do other board members have questions? I notice there's a member of the public who wants to ask something.
I have a question about process.
Yes, go ahead.
I've had a little confusion over the past few weeks. In the contract that we signed with you, you signed a contract with the select board. And the product in your contract is described as being sent to us. But
Yes.
it's not being, including the draft.
No,
So I'm wondering.
drafts aren't usually sent to the select board because they're
Okay.
usually done by the finance department, and they're usually done by the management. Management and finance are the ones who provide all the information, trial balance. Really, think of these financial statements. If you look at the auditor's opinion, you'll see a paragraph in there that says these financial statements are your responsibility. I help put them together to assist you. So basically, when we do a draft, we have to make sure they can take full responsibility and know where everything comes from, where the numbers are. And then
Okay.
when they're finalized, it goes to the board.
Well, my confusion may arise from this. In your general conditions of your contract from June 1st, it says we're prepared to commence work as soon as formally engaged by us, the select board, correct?
Yes,
The draft of the audit report will be submitted for your review prior to its issuance. So the language suggests that you will issue that to us, the select board, which is who you're contracted with. So I guess I'm wondering what, I don't know, that's what I was expecting. That's not what happened.
yeah.
Um,
I
so
think
just-
the term your meant the town. Obviously, what I don't want is the select board to get bogged down into, oh, the draft, there was some things wrong or some bad wording, and we go back and forth and back and forth. We're trying to get you as the board at an upper level, the final product that has the best wording where everything's accurate. Going back and forth on drafts, you're probably getting information that's going to bog you down, to be honest with you.
Okay. Okay,
We
to go to
could-
the public?
If you wanted, we could always issue a draft to the board, or we could present a draft. I've done that for a couple other towns. But I would still probably send an early draft to the finance department to make sure they can take responsibility for the financials and they know where the numbers come from, since they're the ones who provided all the backup.
It's asked it.
Is your question about the wording, or would you actually like to see a draft?
Well, my understanding is select board has the contract with, and the wording says it's coming to us. I think that's pretty clear in here. I guess I'm generally we're auditing finance department, and so providing them with a audit before the audit comes out strikes me as a potential liability for us or anyone else. You don't usually give the audit to the person you're auditing to review before you issue the audit. So,
Well, isn't it a matter of the finance department and the treasurer and the town manager on the research so that the resulting audit is accurate? I think it's more of a research project. And I think a final review of a draft would be, we've done a really great job on, I don't know, the reserve funds, but we're not sure our information, this other section was exactly right. So I'm just saying it as, even when you write something, you have a first draft, then you rewrite, just making sure that we have the most up-to-date and accurate information possible. And I think it's technical. So personally, I don't think the select board receiving a draft and having to understand all the technical aspects of it would be very productive.
I'm not saying it is. I'm just saying the wording of this is contrary to what
Trying to understand the
happened.
process,
So
I
I
can
wanted to ask-
change the wording next year to say a draft will be provided to finance and the manager for review prior to it being finalized at the board level.
Does that make sense to you, Kimo?
sure, yeah.
Okay. All right.
I
Go ahead.
I think that's important. I mean, it doesn't serve any purpose for the board to get preliminary information that we've been getting all along when it's put into the draft of an audit or draft of anything. We're a higher level body, and the language, I don't have any problem with the language of their letter. I don't have any problem with because I think people understand that management is going to be making sure that they're working with the auditor. But I think if we started getting drafts, we would be unbelievably bogged down and
Yes,
wouldn't
as Rick
get
said.
forward, because it's not our job to check what cells money is put into. It's our job to see the bottom line and this audit. So I agree with what Mary said.
Okay, I'm going to go over to Patricia Spellman. Would you like to speak?
Yeah, sure. Hi, everyone. I'm on the finance, new to the finance committee, so new to this a little bit. But I have 3 points. One, just to the conversation that you just had. I've been involved in lots of organizations on the finance side, and I think it would be useful to have the finance committee or an audit committee review. I do think management should be reviewing drafts. That happens in every organization. So that makes sense. But having sort of a group that maybe has a little more expertise in the select board or has more time to look at it in detail, I think would be helpful to do that before it comes to the select board, just my opinion. I know there's been discussion about an audit committee in the past, but not sure where that is. So that was my first thing. Second thing was, maybe this is a question for Barry. In the December 10th meeting, Barry talked about this $1 million missed post. And I don't really see that in the audit. I see the $1 million sort of unbudgeted transfer, which I think was the transfer to the 3 funds that you talked about, Rick. But was this missed post, did that affect the audit at all?
I'm not sure I know what missed post we're talking about. I'd have to have more
Shall we
details.
Should we ask Barry do you think that would be okay?
I think it's better to ask questions in the meeting and Barry can respond to that. It's normally what we've done.
I know that she's here, but is it okay? Shall we call on Barry to explain what she meant by the?
Well, I think it's hard to call people out for meetings that happened in December and ask them
That's true.
for detail. So
Okay.
I would propose, we have heard your question, Patricia, and we can have an answer back to you in the next packet.
Great. Yeah, it was one of the explanations for the variance between, I think, the budget to actuals. And so I'm just confused about that and
I
happy to.
would be surprised if it wasn't related to the transfers then. But
Yeah,
but
it
you
looked
can
like it
ask her in
was.
front of- Yeah,
She showed like the posts and it was
Yeah.
like an extra $1 million it looked like.
yeah,
But
that would
I'm
make
just really-
sense.
Yeah. Okay.
I think too, that would be a good way to resolve it in that it would be in writing and in the packet so that, it's just available to look up and get some insight for everyone.
Okay.
And do you have other questions?
Yes, yeah, my third question maybe for Rick is, as a citizen of Norwich and finance committee member, I'm trying to really understand the difference in the operating budget, like what's happening in the operating budget. It's really hard to do when you have capital items mixed in with operating items, and whether you have any suggestions for making it clearer so that those of us that are interested in seeing what's happening can do those comparisons without sort of having these big capital items, right in the middle of the operating budget.
Well, it's hard because some of the capital obviously would reflect to the highway fund, which normally you want to put that in the highway department. And just like if there's something within the fire department that's capital related, I've seen towns that would do more like, okay, here's our operating, and then they could either do a subcategory underneath called capital for each of the departments, or they could do something at the end, which is all the capital related stuff. And that way it could show up as a separate section and kind of not bog down your normal operational budget. So I think either one of those can work. But again, that's just really more structure of your budget and how you want to see it. And I think a great idea would be putting the treasurer, the finance committee together with Barry and just saying, this is how it's looking now. Is there a way to restructure it to make it more understandable to the layman and to everybody else about how these pieces work within the budget?
Great. Thank you. That's helpful.
Thank you. Pam Smith?
Yes, thank you, Madam Chair. I have a question for Rick regarding the $700,000 surplus infusion that was in the budget for this fiscal year. So I'm just trying to figure out how that plays into this whole scenario. Is that money still?
Are you talking about this 700,000 in the 24 town meeting that was decided to reduce property taxes?
Yes, and that was in the FY25 budget.
Yeah, so basically that just means you were already planning on having a negative $700,000 deficit as your budget, even walking in the door, forgetting the transfers. So at the if you look at your budget actual, and I think if you go back to page 55. So again, this is the normal budget actual operations of the general fund. You already see you're budgeting 654,672 to lose money because of that 700,000. There are other little bits and pieces related to, I think, some revenues that might have changed from when you were originally budgeting them to when the vote for, or when the tax rate was set. And I think those are some of the differences to get from the 654 to the 7. But that 7 is basically the majority of that 654, 672 that you're saying is we budgeted to lose that. And then what you're seeing in the next line is, but we actually made 185,000 in the normal operations budget, excluding the transfers, because of less spending in the police, less spending in the highway. We got some extra revenues that were above and beyond what we expected. So again, it's kind of reconciling from this budget actual back to the deficit, which again, the main item between the difference between this 185,751 here and the 900,000 in that, but that exhibit we already looked at is the $1 million transfers that you put to the other funds.
But if I look at page 6 of your report, it says the change in net position is $963,517. That's a positive number. So that means we had almost $1 million more at the end of the year than we had at the beginning.
Okay,
and if
we have to, the reason I don't even talk about page 5 and 6, because most people don't focus on, most boards don't focus on it. This is what we call the government-wide set of books. This is basically looking at your town as if you were a business. So this is booking your fixed assets. This is booking assets, and depreciation will be over years. So this exhibits A and B, pages 5 and 6, most times I don't review them in audits because most people don't want to go over that information. They're focused about their general fund and their reserve funds and what they have for fund balances. This, if you took all the pages of, like, if you took pages 7 and 8 and added in fixed assets, added in debt, added in depreciation, added the pension liabilities, sick leave, vacation leave, all that stuff that is a full accrual basis, then you'd get to this exhibit A and B. So you don't really want to focus on page 6 as your increase in fund balance for your governmental funds or for your fund financial statements. This is what we call the government wide. It's a requirement for GASB to put them in the financial statements, but most towns don't do much with the financial information out of this other than looking at fixed assets, depreciation and debt, which most times they'll look in the footnotes to get more information about that. Does that make sense?
Yes, I followed that pretty much, but what I'm trying to figure out is the $700,000 is not mentioned anywhere on the revenue page. And when you take the amount of revenue that has come in and subtract the expenses that have been paid out,
There's I guess
Go
what I
ahead.
would say is there's no 700,000 to come in. You budget the 700,000 you budgeted to lose. There's no excess revenue coming in for 700,000. You
Right,
budgeted yourself to say, hey, we're going to have budget less revenues than expenses because we want to lose 700,000 because we're going to use it to reduce property taxes.
but didn't we have more money come in than we had money go out? So the 700,000 wouldn't be touched?
No, we have a deficit on page 8 of $900,000, $930,466 because you moved all that $1 million over to those reserve funds.
I'm not talking about moving money. I'm talking about income versus expense. If you do a P&L,
Moving money is an expense. Moving
you
money,
do-
transferring it to a reserve fund is an expense.
right, but what I'm talking about is money in the door versus
Yep.
money out the door, no transfers. Is there
Yep.
more money coming in than money being paid out by check? And I think the answer is yes. But
I
then
think,
when
well,
you-
again, let's look at page 8. Your total revenues were 6,691,278. Your total expenses were 5,518,998. That left you an excess of 1,172,000. Correct, that's true. But then you transferred to other funds 2,102,000, which left you as a deficit of 930.
Okay, but we
So,
did,
so if I'm looking at it, that 5,518,998 plus the 2,102,746, those are your expenses. Not just the 5,518,998.
okay. All right. It's hard for me to grasp all these numbers when they're flying around, but I will go back to the report and look at what you've just said and try to make it make sense in my finance brain.
Yeah, and if you have a problem, give Barry a call, like once you sort of formulate your question. And if she needs to reach out to me again, I have no problem kind of going over with you. But yeah, I like I said, I think it's pretty clear as far as page 8 is saying where you get to the 93466. And I think sometimes people just don't think of transfers as expenses, but think of it as just like a vendor expense. You're just transferring it to another fund, so it's truly an expense.
Yeah, we still have the money, we just are accounting for it in a different bucket.
It's a different pocket. That's exactly right.
Good way of thinking of it.
All right,
All right.
okay, thank you.
Thanks, Pam. Any other, let's see, questions?
It's very clear. Thank you. Seriously.
No,
Thank you very much.
Seriously, it is.
Yep.
Not to me, but it's.
Thank you, Rick.
Thanks,
Thanks,
Rick.
everybody. Have a good rest of your meeting.
Thank you. Okay. So on our agenda is the town clerk spending request for the purchase of archival paper.
I move to approve the expenditure of up to $110 from the Restoration Fund number 45 for the purchase of archival paper.
There's a second? Second. Any discussion? Seeing none, I think we'll vote. Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
You vote?
Yes.
Priscilla? Yes. Matt?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay. The Recreation Department spending request. So we'll do that one.
No, I move to approve the expenditure of $300 from the Scholarship Fund number 40 to offset recreation program fees for 2 families.
May I have a second? Second. Any questions or discussion? Seeing none, I vote. Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kimo,
Yes.
Scylla,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
yes. And now we're to the UVAA request for a letter of support for the NBRC Catalyst grant. And this is the second letter. We had signed a letter to enable, I believe, the Agricultural Association to apply for this.
It was a separate grant that we approved at
separate
the last meeting.
Okay, did it have any connection?
It did have a connection. It was to help them write this grant that they're now applying
No,
for.
I thought there was a connection, but just that the name and the request has come up twice, just to make sure we're.
Yeah. This Catalyst grant is the big money.
This is
The
the
other
big
one
one.
was just like a $5,000.
How to write a grant, the grant guidance thing, okay.
So how much is this?
Let's see what this is.
This is.
Doesn't. It's just a letter of support,
Yeah, I don't think it
It doesn't say
dictates how
that.
much they're looking.
the scope of what they're looking for, but
I move to approve the draft letter in support of the Upper Valley Agricultural Association's application for a Northern Border Regional Commission Catalyst Grant.
I have a second.
Second.
Why are we saying since this hasn't happened, your efforts highlighted through the Catalyst Grant Initiative have significantly contributed because they haven't received the grant yet? Should we say will significantly
On their
contribute?
the template that they
Yeah.
come up with.
A lot of, if I may, a lot of this is kind of boilerplate stuff that goes into letters of support. So I don't know that we want to recraft the letter. I think-
That's not a big retracting. Just say will significantly contribute.
Well, we won't get the gratitude until it's signed and approved. So it's not even, it's not a live communication until we've approved it. And I also assume if we've approved it, then it would be appropriate language, right? So
Didn't they already get the Catalyst Grant?
they got, I don't know, how would you name the first?
It's a
grant?
REDI, REDI.
So
Oh,
we had,
That's why we're signing a letter of support for them. They're applying for the Northern Borders Catalyst Grant.
so this is the large one that we, helped them quite a bit, but they had to apply for the other to know how to write a grant for this. So they are related, but they're not the same approval.
This is the fruit of the first grant.
yeah, no, I understood.
The ready.
Okay,
Very
Was,
nice.
whoops, and who's
that's
who's
Steve,
speaking?
Stephen True.
Oh, good, yes. Do you want to explain a little bit, please?
Just to clarify, the ready grant, which was the letter you signed in a prior meeting, was for an assistance grant to write material for the catalyst.
May I ask an assistance grant, does that involve a third party either doing research or writing parts of the second grant that's being contemplated? Is that how that works?
Yeah, that's correct.
Okay. All right. Any other questions for Stephen on that,
So-
this process?
So they have not yet written the application for the Catalyst Grant? Do I understand that incorrectly or correctly?
That is correct.
They have not yet written the application.
Well, I guess it has to be written in a certain way.
Yeah.
Where you have to actually obtain
No,
assistance.
that's right. I just come back to,
Yeah.
I'm not going to thank them for something they haven't yet done. I'm just going to say it will help.
So I have a question. Stephen, does this letter, once it's signed, just get put aside and then go into the packet when they actually send in the grant?
Yes, that's my understanding.
Thank you. So we're writing something in advance.
If it's part of the application, they still haven't received it. So I don't, anyway.
So this letter will be sent in after they've received the Catalyst Grant?
It'll be included in the application for the Catalyst grant.
I guess it's a letter of support, so that's why it would be included. And we're being thanked, assuming that we will support this, which I believe we will. We're just being thanked for all the benefits that it will have for the community, that we will have enabled if we approve it. So,
Well,
Well,
We're not being thanked, we're thanking them.
Yeah, I do agree with Priscilla. The wording is a little funny. Your efforts highlighted through the Catalyst Grant Initiative, which has not been given yet, have significantly contributed to the vitality.
Right.
So I guess my question to Stephen or anyone, does it need to be rewritten or is this sufficient to get the job done?
I would say it's sufficient to get the job done. It is in the past tense. It's standard. It's a standard contribution to these applications. It's tantamount to boilerplate.
It's positive thinking on their part. You're going to give us this.
It's not very good writing. And farmers always have the best writing. So, it's confusing, but I think
the farmer.
I think it's okay. Yeah. Good.
All right, any further discussion or should we get down to a vote here? Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Emo?
Yes.
Scylla?
No,
Oh, okay.
change the words and I'll,
Okay, all right. And Matt? how do
Yes.
you- Okay, and I'm a yes.
did anybody move it?
Yes.
Kimo moved, I
Kimo
seconded.
and,
Okay.
Yeah, so, okay.
Can I just comment as a public member of the public?
Sure.
Right, one. I interpret this first paragraph as thank you for just having this grant, period. Not that we're preemptively assuming we get it as a town. Just thank you.
You're right. You're right.
For offering these
You're
funds.
absolutely right.
I did grant writing for a year and this is pretty
Thanking the grant.
common because you also want to approach it for the last sentence again, thank you for all you do for a community.
Yeah,
It's great.
You're absolutely right.
and they
That's
do
right.
give out a ton of money. Northern Border Regional.
Well, if you said that before we voted, I would have voted differently, but it doesn't matter, it passed.
And that's why she is our expert note taker, because she cares about what's written.
But it's also good to, if you'd have a doubt, it is good to vote no, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right, well, and shall I sign this then? If that's,
We should have done what we did before and included an authorization in our motion.
do you want to do another little motion to make it cleaner?
You can withdraw your motion and then Miss Priscilla can vote the way she wants to vote now that she's been informed. And we can add and authorize the chair to sign the letter.
That's true, that would be great.
Mhm.
So that would mean that chemo
I
and,
would like to withdraw my motion to
Okay.
approve the draft letter in support of the Upper Valley Agricultural Association's application for a Northern Border Regional Commission Catalyst Grant.
I withdraw my second.
okay, good. And then we have to move it again. You want to move it, chemo, and add on the
Move to approve the draft letter in support of the Upper Valley Agricultural Association's application for a Northern Border Regional Commission Catalyst Grant. And
authorize
And authorize the chair.
the chair.
To
the
sign the letter.
Norwich Select Board to sign on behalf of the town.
Okay, very
Second.
nice. Okay, and then Matt just seconded the new motion, and we'll do a revote here. Okay, on this new motion, Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
And chemo?
Yes.
Scylla?
Yes.
And Matt?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, well, that was very good. So that's all nice and clean and exciting. All right. Next is the Local Hazard Mitigation Plan Committee creation. Would you like to speak to that?
I'd be happy to. So in the packet, you had a memo that I prepared with the assistance of Stephen Drew, who has volunteered to kind of take the lead on this as the planning director. And what we're looking for tonight would just be kind of creating or approving a steering committee that would help Stephen in the process, which we envision will take at least several months to complete and go through all of the public hearings that are required. But tonight, that's all we're looking for.
I have a question about it. And Is it considered a working group? It seems like all internal employees, and it also involves public hearings to sort of review the information.
So should the term for the group be a working group
Well,
versus?
is it? I mean, would it be subject to, the requirements of a working group? Like,
Yes.
okay, so,
All of the meetings that are gonna occur are gonna be public meetings. We're gonna always adhere
so it'd be
to.
warned,
Open meeting.
agenda,
Yep.
and minutes. Okay, thank you.
So,
Marcia?
so we should add that to the handbook, and we also need still, I never got a blurb, I don't know if the select board got a blurb about the other working group that's been formed.
The energy one?
Yeah.
Well, I guess I would question, are we gonna update the handbook and then remove working groups every time, like a 3-month working group is formed?
Well, what we did with the other temporary ones was leave them there because we thought they were useful, like the energy one, the childcare one. They're just there as, we've had these. It's good historical knowledge.
We certainly could update the select board handbook.
It sounds like another
Board
agenda
wishes.
item.
Well, again, it's,
This one happens every I think it's a 5-year renewal
Yeah.
anyways, so like, it wouldn't be a bad thing to add in this case.
you could do whatever the board wishes.
How do you all feel about it? I mean, Marcia, would you be willing to provide language to do so? That would make it easier, because we
Yeah.
wouldn't have to do that work.
I'm gonna knock on Jan's door to send me the language for the other working group.
Okay, so perhaps we could do it on the 25th. All right, so are there questions about the group or the steering committee?
Um,
Go ahead, Marcia.
Just a question. It has to be approved by the state. Is that true? Or how does it happen?
Stephen can maybe answer that better than I believe. It goes through a number of different iterations and approvals, and one is the state level. I think the other is the federal level, because it's a FEMA focused plan. Stephen, are you on? Can you answer that any better than I did?
No, you're correct. It'll go through state FEMA representation, then to federal FEMA representation for the review of the application.
So do we get guidance for how to do this from them?
We have Stephen. No, there is lots of guidance out there. It's a very, very bureaucratic and
Technical.
some could say
exercise, yeah.
tedious process to
Right.
get through, but it's all very well spelled out as far as what you need to do and how to do it.
All right, could I have a motion to appoint the steering
I
committee?
move to appoint a steering committee to update the Norwich LHMP, consisting of the town manager, planning director, fire chief, police chief, DPW director, and Norwich health officer.
Have a second?
Second.
Oops, I didn't. I think it's chemo. I'm not sure. Okay. And let's vote. So Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
And chemo?
Yes.
Scylla?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
I'm a yes. Okay, numbers 9 and 10 are sort of my a couple of tasks that I would like to do, and I did put the first one, planning for it should be 2027 public information meeting hearing. I just wanted to do some research of all the timelines and permissions that we'd have to get in order to have information hearing, for instance, on a Saturday afternoon, perhaps even with food. It's more of a town event, but there are kind of a lot of different threads to that. So what I want to do is to do that research, and I put working group just in case it has to be that complicated. But I also know that working group is kind of a burden on the town manager's office because of the meetings that have to be warned and so forth. So that's where this is coming from. I noticed Brennan has his hand up here.
I think you preemptively skipped over the 9, which was the 26, because that's what's,
Oh, I'm sorry.
That's
I'm getting
okay.
ahead of myself.
they look very similar.
Yeah, you are so right. We've got to actually have, some presentation for the 2026. Thanks for waving that down before I got really into it. Okay. Yeah, well, we probably need a slide deck and some plan for the information that we want to present. And who will be presenting and so forth. So do we want to just talk about last year's and see if we want to stick with the basic format and update it, or let's think about what we had. So we present, go ahead, Brennan.
So I actually printed out the slide deck that we used last year, and I can just walk people through that quickly.
Very nice.
So we had, and I think we did this the year prior as well, it was kind of like an update on staffing, and we thought that would be interesting to people that don't get to Tracy Hall every day to see who has come and gone in the last year. So we had, I guess, a couple of slides on that. We had a slide about who our currently elected officials are and staff in Tracy Hall that kind of went along with that.
Did you say that one? You kind of.
It was the elected officials and staff, other than, I guess it was the treasurer, the clerk, and the lister's office.
Okay, so you have
that
staffing being the.
Of elected officials, I guess you could say.
So one was staffing, one was elected officials.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yep. We had a slide last year that was talking about the fiscal year 26 budget goals and challenges. And then we had a slide on budget summary. Last year, we had a slide called Exploring the Tax Rate that was really dealing with the infusion, the $700,000 buy down of the taxes. So I don't know if that's remain or necessary this year. We also had a slide last year that was talking about the other 3 funds there, the Tracy Hall, the DPW, and the Emerald Ash Borer. We don't have that this year either, so
right.
It's not necessary. And then we had a couple slides at the end that were just kind of a completed initiatives and ongoing work of the select board, town manager, and staff. So these were just kind of bullet points about the things that we accomplished kind of as a town in the last year, as kind of a review for people. And then the other thought I had, if we wanted to liven this up a little, because we always get outdone by Neil O'Dowd. It's very, very sophisticated.
This is the appropriate use of AI. You better be dumping it.
And we're not gonna challenge him this year, I'm sure. But we did do the heating system upgrade. We do have a couple photos of tanks being lifted up on cranes.
Oh, that'd be cool.
So
Yeah.
we could
Good visuals.
embellish this with a couple slides that were just a specific project narrative, like when did we start?
The drone footage too.
The drone footage of,
Well, just the roof.
well, we haven't done that
Haven't
yet.
done that
Other
yet.
than
Take
the
up pictures.
drone. So that was a thought, is if we want to have just maybe at the end, just in case you were wondering, here's how your money got spent last year on Tracy Hall, and we can put together a real simple narrative about that. So again, if all of that seemed reasonable, I'm happy to volunteer to put the PowerPoints together. I would also offer any select board member that wanted to present the opportunity. If no one wished to do so, I would volunteer to present again.
Thank you. Good job last year.
Well, not my favorite thing to do, but I certainly can do it. And unless, again, somebody wanted to take that over for the year. Seemed not a whole lot of eager volunteers.
I don't mind doing it.
Yeah, it's really, it's kind of just reading through, prepare a
It's
little
kind
bit.
of- Well, I think that for me, it's like Vanna. I don't know what it is for you, but like Vanna White.
Yeah. Well, we could do this. We don't have to decide that tonight. If you'd like, I will put together some updated slides before the next meeting, and we'll have those in the packet for people to review. It's kind of like, make sure this is what we want to say. I think we did that last year as well. And we'll finalize it on the 25th for the 2nd. That sounds good?
Yeah. And I like the mentioning the increase this year, which is quite modest, you know, and also just that we don't have the special projects we had last year.
Mhm.
So good.
Yeah, it'll be a little simpler to get through the budget this year.
Thank you. Thanks for getting the notes on last year's slide deck too. It's really helpful. So I think Brennan's willing to write that slide deck. I guess don't have to move anything on that.
I don't think so.
Okay, so now we're on 10, 9, 10, 10. Okay, 10A and B, that's how we did it. So there are kind of two tasks that I wanted to do, and one was just trying to think about all the timelines involved, permissions involved, and extra headaches involved for staff doing things on the weekend, like setting up and cleaning up. I'd just like in my mind to have all of those sort of straight, to see if it was possible to have our information meeting on a weekend. So that's what I'd like to do. And I don't know if it comes to the level of a working group, or because I'd sort of be just contacting different people to find information. So can you all help me think about whether this is a working group or is it a query that I can do?
Sounds like a query.
Sounds like a query.
So as long as I'm operating and just trying to gather information from different people, I mean, I could document it as I go, but when you get to the something that's complicated enough that you actually need a working group, it gets more complicated administratively, and I think it is a burden on the office, because agendas have to be posted, minutes taken, access to the meeting. You have to have public access to all the meetings. So I think if I can operate on my own, I'll just do that and bring the research back to the board. But the other thing is, in general, if no one wants this to happen, I'm not going to do it. It was sort of, I was thinking it was intriguing. It might be good for the town, kind of for morale in a way, and perhaps is a more convenient time to meet.
I think it's a great idea.
So you're okay with like doing the research to see if that's possible?
Yeah.
Okay,
Yeah.
so you guys have.
Do you want our help or?
No, well.
Well, then we get into
We're
quorum
gonna get
things.
bogged down in the
I think in the
working
past,
group idea.
I think in the past, we made it a charge.
Yes.
So we could charge you with going out, assembling whatever data you think you needed to collect and whatever people you needed to talk to survey opinion.
Okay,
And bring it back to us and kind of just present it like us and therefore the whole public.
Yes.
What you found, and then we can more intelligently sort of talk on the topic.
okay. And do we need to do that formally? Do you need to move this, or just, you just?
I think it would, yeah, we
Okay.
did that when I had the communication charge.
All right,
So how about if we just change this a little bit to, shall I go?
yeah, please.
I move to authorize the select board chair to explore changing the date of the 2027 Town of Norwich Informational Meeting. No, I'll make it the select board chair.
Maybe current select board chair?
Yep, the
That might
current.
expire.
I move to authorize the current select board chair to explore changing the date of the 2027 Town of Norwich Informational Meeting.
She will
She
consult.
will consult with the town manager, the town clerk, and others deemed essential to the presentation of the town and school budgets and warrant articles, and bring that information back to the select board for a decision.
Okay. Kimo, do you want to?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead,
when
go ahead.
we're
What's your
ready for
question?
questions. Has the date been set already?
No.
This would be
So
for next
Not
year.
2027.
We're not changing it.
No, it's not this year.
Not this year, not.
You know, it says to explore changing the date of the 2027, but we haven't said it yet, so we're not changing the date.
Well, it's always
I-
been.
I think when I
Looking
said
it up.
changing the date, it's been sort of habit to have
Yeah,
it.
no, I know, I just,
Well, it'd be a change of date in that I can't even think when it was ever different, you know? It's like, it's probably since 1776, you know?
yeah,
So,
would be.
Nothing wrong with that.
all right. So Marcia's made a motion.
I'll second.
Okay. And let's have a vote on that one. So Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Emo?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome. And I'm a yes. Okay, so that one's okay as a query. And the other one I would like to do in a similar vein, and this just came out of the, for me, this came out of the process to put the schoolhouses on the ballot. Because I don't remember it being, I just don't remember the different kind of materials being asked the last time it was put on. I think it was just put on. And I thought, well, maybe we just don't have a real policy. When it's not by petition, that's very clear. You do that through the town clerk. But if the select board is going to be asked to put it on or wants to put it on, what is the process? For instance, in the way it came up this year, people wanted to know, are the schoolhouses organizations in good standing with the Secretary of State? So I had been keeping up with that one for the Root Schoolhouse, and then I think Beaver Meadow had lapsed and had to reincorporate. But it would just be good to know, well, what do people really want to know before they vote on that subject? Like what is required? So I'm willing to kind of, in a similar way, try to research that a little bit and also consult with the town clerk. She had some ideas about it, and probably the listers, and just sort of that part of it out. Go ahead, Marcia.
I think so much of tax exemption is actually statutory, that you should definitely talk with counsel, because this isn't something I think that you make up as you go along.
Well, there are the three categories, for instance, right, in the statute.
Right. But there's also coming down the pike, as we mentioned, is new changes in municipal law tax. And so I think it's important to talk to counsel and make sure that you understand that. And it might even be necessary to talk to the tax department.
Okay, so this one could get a little complicated. Maybe it should be done in stages too. Like to find out the common, like the easy ones, like status with Secretary of State. That's a very easy one to, to find it and to know what it is. Notice how far in advance should a organization give notice to the select board, or is it, and it would be, thinking more for getting it on the ballot is what I was thinking. So that there's probably a certain number of days or weeks. So things like that, the more routine things.
I think what would be helpful would be is if you could develop a template so that you had, if you want like a roots exemption, what happens there?
Right.
If
with case studies sort of thing.
Well, you maybe not even case studies, but almost like a checklist. This is what you do. This is what the law is. This is what the steps are. Does it get voted or not? And I think that's an easy kind of checklist to put together, but it also could have, parts so that you have different types of exemptions, because again, they're only statutory. And as I said, there may be a change coming down the pike. Well, there is a change coming in July. There's a new law. And so you want to understand how that law is going to affect existing municipal exemptions and how they go forward. And I think you should also understand what happens to the PVR 317. How does that get approved by the state? Should that be something that automatically gets approved by council, because we are losing tax dollars when those things get approved? So I think once you've got that template in place, then you don't have to reinvent the wheel every time something comes through the door.
Well, that's what I was thinking, to have a checklist,
Right.
but there may be some very complicated things that I, would need to have more help, as you say, from other people to do it. I mean, I could maybe get started on some of the basic things, but
And maybe have it reviewed by council once you've got it sort of.
yeah,
set.
so,
That,
Oh, sorry, go ahead.
the form, the PBR 317 form that I sent along to you, outlines a lot of the statute that
Okay.
Marsha was talking about and gives you sort of guide rails to, like how they can get exemption. And then adding into it, sort of a checklist that you're
Logistical
talking about,
things.
where it's like timeline,
yes. and
are
if
you
I
in good
do-
standing with Secretary of State? Kind of the things that all the things that came up.
Yes,
And then it would be nice to, I think it's a great idea to do this because there are several ways to kind of, to get tax exemption status.
yes,
It might be more desirable to go through the listers.
exactly. To show the different pathways and the different timeframes,
Right.
like a little guide. Go ahead,
I guess,
Kima.
my question is, because this affects you
Well, that's how
as
it's,
a chair, coming up, but I'm wondering, are there other entities that might have similar concerns that we should also be looking into? So that it's not just us looking into our own things, but we're providing a template for many different types of organizations or tax exempt. I don't know, or is there just one type of tax exempt
Property.
property that would cover
there's sort
anybody?
of there's sort of a test, isn't there?
Yeah.
There's a statutory sort of, for instance, religious organizations is one, right? Charitable and veterans.
I think what she will create will be, encompass everybody's options. Not
It
just.
does that,
Understand.
that's great. Yeah,
Okay.
I don't want it to be a period.
What, because I involved with the schoolhouse?
Well, I mean, that's sort of why you're,
Well,
you
no,
became interested in it.
well, that's how I became interested in it, and the board graciously, put both of them on the ballot. But I just thought the process seemed ragged. And I also, when Peter Stansel and Lindsay Putnam came in, they just looked like, oh my God, this is so bureaucratic. And here we are, we've been working hard to keep that. And theirs is wonderful for community, get that community going, and they're a warming shelter. There's so many community benefits, but then you kind of show up in your town hall, it's like, well, you got this, you got that.
Yeah.
It just didn't feel crummy.
Yeah.
So
Good.
I like to ease that process. Can you, maybe this doesn't have to be a working group either, which would be good, another query. But shall I just maybe try to bring more to this and come back? Like try to work out the draft of how a checklist would be, work on it and come back? Is that okay? Not have it be so formal, but come back.
Sounds great.
How about I move to authorize?
Oh, okay, will be good. This will be cleaner.
I move to authorize the current select board chair to draft policy governing select board approval of warrant articles requesting property tax exemption for particular properties.
You want to just do period?
Yeah,
Yeah, I was just wondering.
tax exemption period.
I was just thinking that it would be a service if Mary could make the board, bring to the board through official sources, the clarity so that they understand and the community can
Yeah,
understand
like a
what an
little guide.
exemption means.
Yeah.
So I think that this, the way it's written, is just talking about warrant articles. So I think it maybe could even be a bit broader.
Oh, okay,
So I'm going to withdraw my motion and try this one.
all right.
I move to authorize the current select board chair to draft a policy governing both select board approval of warrant articles requesting property tax exemption for particular properties and the property exemption property tax exemption
Options.
options and effects in general.
So property tax exemptions, what was the second part?
And
Effects.
effects.
What do you mean by effects?
There's a financial effect on the community.
Yeah.
Oh, okay, so like the tax burden.
Yeah.
Or benefit, I mean, because
Right.
I think they offset each other.
There's an effect one way or the other.
Right.
But I think
All right,
like that.
and so Marcia moved that. Do you want it, anyone want to hear it again? Or is there a second? For that one?
I'll second.
You're
Okay.
giving yourself, you're taking on a lot of
Well,
work, Mary.
I might get bogged down, but I thought,
I mean, it just seems like you're asking a lot of yourself.
all right, well, if I crash, I'll come back I'll get rescued by somebody. I'll come
I don't
back and
think
say it's too much.
I don't think either.
Or
of
let's
those-
do a working group or something, but I'd like to give it a shot. I'd like to give it a try.
Okay.
Okay,
I don't think they're too bad. I think she can do them. They're easy.
okay, Matt, did you second that?
Yes.
Okay. Any further discussion? If not, we'll vote. Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chemo?
Yeah.
Matt? Oh, I'm sorry, Priscilla. Going
Yeah.
out of order here.
Yes.
And Matt.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you, guys. Let's go experiment with those things. Thank you. Okay, next is the Tracy Hall roof repair with the gorgeous photos in the packet or roof. Would you like to talk about?
I'd be happy to, sure. So as I have described in my memo that was in the packet, we had started to look at this back at the end of the summer, and we had gotten a couple quick quotes, and we had one that took a little longer to come in. And the one that took longer to come in, to me, makes the most sense in that it is not a lot of money, and it is addressing kind of strategically specific slates up to 11 that their drone review showed them could be problematic. So what I'm asking for tonight is just authorization to spend up to $3,500 out of Fund 13. And with that, I would proceed with the agreement with that vendor. And my guess is this is something that would happen not in the middle of winter, but maybe closer to spring.
I have one question. I thought the presentation was excellent, made a lot of sense. It was mentioning on the qualities of slate that the Vermont
Yeah.
slate is actually less absorptive and perhaps higher quality. So I'd just be interested in what kind of slate they will use.
It doesn't say, yeah.
And I mean, it's not a deal breaker. I just would be interested, you know, if it happens where they happen to source the slate.
Mm.
And I don't know if there'll be a little color difference too, but probably it'll blend in, I think.
I would imagine if it's 11 slates out of the entire
Yes.
body of slate, that we probably wouldn't notice. Although, I could certainly assume that they would match it by color, like that would be what they're trying to do.
I was also interested sort of technically that they flash it. So they nail it on and then they have a little piece of metal that goes under the slates above to shed water. So I think any repair will have that little bit of flashing. But I just thought that was very ingenious how that was done.
Um,
Go ahead, Kima.
as much as I'd love to see things progress, I'm not in favor of doing this right now. My reasons are these. We had a feasibility study done in November 2024. And in that, it says, please understand, while this report contains recommendations for repairs, it's not a specification for bidding or building, should not be used as a basis for contractor bids. Specifications, bids, construction documents contain substantially more information on such items as architectural, civil, mechanical, electrical, plumbing, structural details, and specifications include quantity, quality, materials, codes and standards, schedules, details, and conditions of the work which guide and protect both the owner and the contractor. We don't have, as far as I'm aware, a specification for bidding. So we didn't ask them to bid on specific work, which is what the architect would have recommended. Typically, I think what I'd recommend here is we get a roofing specialist in who can advise us without being responsible for the work. So you pay them to advise you.
Like a consultant.
Get specifications and get equal bids. The fact that we got one that sort of said replace everything, one that said you don't need to do anything, and one, well, you could do a little bit. The wide range makes me feel like the bidding process could be improved. And based on what the architects wrote in their feasibility study and the wide range of bids, there's no specification of what slate they're using or what slate we have.
Oh, we do know that. It's Pownell.
We think so.
Knew that, Brennan, right? The Pownell Black or something? It's from, no, Pulteney. It's from Pulteney. It is a particular slate. We do know that, the original.
Yeah.
So.
My other reason is that I think in October, we're told that Nexus would be coming back to make a presentation in December.
Mm-hmm.
It's now February. We haven't heard anything from them. We have nothing planned. I think before we move forward anymore in the building, we should have that process take place. We don't have any leaks that I'm aware of, so I don't think it's a critical thing. It's appealing to spend a little money and get something done. But if there's other work that's going to be done on the roof, for example, taking the chimney down, that should be done at the same time.
I'd like to respond to your points.
Hmm.
I do think that we've been kind of drifting on our overall plan for Tracy Hall. It should be done in a more organized way. And we should decide our scope and our timeline, and our process on that. I also think that I would favor going ahead to fix the 11 slates, because I think they appear to be potential leaks and it's not a lot of money. So personally, I would go ahead with this repair, but then I think we need to get our act together about how we're going to comprehensively do this renovation. That's why I kind of said scope and timeline for the parking lot. So it's, I think, more along the lines of what you're talking about, Chemo, that really we're just drifting. And I think it has to be with a new board to kind of regroup and get a better plan for dealing with the whole thing. So that's my response to what you said. And Marcia, do you have?
Yeah, I mean, I'm always worried about roofing and I'm always worried about tiles. I lived in England and my father-in-law was an architect, and tiles that flew off roofs did a lot of damage. So
To people.
And I would like to see us spend a little bit of money to just repair something that clearly could cause a leak, because leaks can cause bigger problems. And I don't think I'm all for, doing things efficiently in terms of taking down the chimney at the same time we repair the roof. But I think this is a little bit like a stitch in time before we end up with a bigger problem. And we do know we have a bigger problem, but let's not have a tear in the fabric that we have bigger problems from. Just fix it.
A stitch in time saves 9. Marcella and Matt, how do you feel about the roof repair with the 11 tiles?
It bothers me that the valuations and estimates are so wildly divergent. That doesn't give me a lot of confidence at all.
Right.
And I've been frustrated for 3 years that we have made so very little progress on doing anything about this building. I mean, it kind of kills me every time crossing the street, looking up at all the peeling paint, and then they, come in here and see grotty looking everything everywhere. And we don't seem to have a sense of urgency about doing anything about this. And I don't get the sense that, maybe the new board will be more energized, proactive or something, but it's been a huge frustration to me, especially when I see, okay, it's not government, we have problems with government, but like what they're doing at the Grange, they're just getting it done. We're not getting anything done. Okay, finally, after several years, we've done the heating system.
And I think a lot of that was due to
Okay.
Brennan, like.
That's just one,
nudging
but
us
that's just
along.
one thing. But, we don't meet with the architects for months at a time. I mean, if I were the architects, I'd be like, I don't know, are they even a live client, I mean, I mean, if we really wanted to commit to this, we should probably be meeting with the architects every time we meet. And just, let's get stuff going. Let's really move on this. And I don't
The
see
energy
issues.
isn't quite there, yeah.
The energy is not there. I mean, okay, it's not very much money. Supposedly it's 11 slates. It's not a very specific contract. I mean, it's interesting to know that apparently it's Vermont slate, so presumably they would put Vermont slate on it
The
again.
original, yeah, the original.
But I look at these little pictures and I see things and say, well, why isn't that one? That doesn't look so good. I can't tell from this stuff. So part of me said, $3,500. It's just taxpayer money, but, and yeah, roofs are critical, but, so I guess I'd say, okay, fine, replace 11 slates, but I'm not happy about the way we're going at this at all.
Yep. Okay. Look, listen, Matt, do you?
I find that, I'm concerned at the pace at which we've been repairing things that need to be repaired. And I think that we need to, bump this up in our parking lot discussion. And perhaps even come up with a short-term plan and a long-term plan, because I think that while we're talking, things are really going to, things are degrading quickly. And so I could be, it could be argued that we need a good paint job outside and some other basic repairs
Elevator.
that we put up, that we put aside. So as much as I do understand what Kimo's saying, and I'd like to wrap this into at least like our short-term plan, I'm concerned that even that is kind of kicking it forward a little bit too much. And so I think that these pictures, when you enlarge them, seem to be compelling, that the tiles are broken. And so I guess if I were to, I think that it's worth fixing now. And then moving ahead more quickly with our short or long-term plan for Tracy Hall.
It's essential. Okay, well,
Go
ahead.
Do you want to go first? Go ahead.
Well, I guess what I was gonna say, it's February, not good time to do roofing work. There is time to get a consultant in to put together, it's not a huge job to put together a bid package and then send it back out to roofers and have them all bidding on the same thing and get 3 bids that are on the same scope and specification well before springtime gets here. This work is not going to be done for a while.
Okay, and Brennan, what were you?
Well, I think, Kimo, you may or may not be aware of what has happened to get to this point. So we had talked last summer about several projects that we wanted to fast track and prioritize. Then there was another discussion that said, no, we need to go back to the feasibility discussion and the scoping and the visioning of the community. So it was like, okay, we did this study 2 years ago. It told us we had 5 or 6 things that we could act on quickly. And then there were some bigger things that were out there. And we haven't taken any action on that, but it's not from lack of trying. Like if we're going to go back and hire a consultant to bid a $3,500 contract, to me that we're going to spend more money on the consultant than we are on the project. My other point is when we talked about the roof as one of these kind of things we'd like to understand, and that's kind of what I was tasked with, go figure this out. I did talk with Doug Sensala at Studio Nexus, and I said, how would you go about this? And he said, well, there are very few companies in the region that do slate roofs. Here are 3 or 4 of them. And that's where I started. I said, okay, we'd like you to come in. We'd like to inspect the roof and come up with a quote on or an explanation of what you see, and then a quote of what you would suggest we do. So that's where we got these 3 quotes. So it's, in a way, it came via the architect, if we're going to consider them the consultant for the town at the moment. And again, to me, it's hard to be told we're not moving fast enough when I bring stuff in and then we say, well, we got to go back to square one and start over with visioning. That's not going to move this quickly. This is going to, we're going to be 6 months down the road in a visioning process, I think. And then, these projects that we have already identified are still kind of sitting there on the back boiler. So that would be my response there.
I have two things to say. One is that perhaps the 11 roof tiles, it's more of a maintenance project to keep the roof functional and not leaking. Whereas the roof itself, I believe we're going to have to at least take the chimney down below the level of the roof. And there's that central cupola, which we might have to decide, are we keeping that or not? There's been talk about possibly strengthening the supports under the roof and possibly adding solar. So there's a lot of sort of larger scale decisions that could be made about the roof that would affect a much larger roofing project. I see this one as maintenance. Actually, I see it as preventive maintenance. So, and it's a relatively small amount of money, but it stirs up all these feelings because I think we're all kind of irritated that we're not getting our act together in a larger scheme of things. And I think we will, but not tonight. So I would urge everybody just to think about this as a preventive maintenance move. And then after we have our new board together to just wake up and start really dealing with this. I also don't know, when we made the public safety building, there was a little ranch house that served as the police department. So I think it was 20 years of an inadequate little ranch house that was demolished. And we had, I think, 3 architectural firms that had idea for, how to do a new building. But I don't know if that would be a strategy for us to have 3 or 4 architectural firms say how they would renovate the space. And then we'd pick one. Rather than us saying, well, maybe we want the kitchen over there, maybe we want it over here, maybe we want to do it, next year, or maybe it's 2 years down the line. Because I think we are drifting. So maybe we just need some more comprehensive expertise and some choices from architects that would actually design, sort out what could be renovated for us. So those are my comments. Oops, let's see, which side should I go to Marcia first?
And I was just going to say, I wasn't surprised by the quote. I never used Janssens and Sons, but I grew up in the same town and they've been there forever. And I never heard any negative
remarks. Okay. And Kimo?
Well, I've written to you asking if I might be assigned to head up a working group back in last May. It didn't make it onto the agenda. When
For
we
what
met
purpose?
well, I'd like to propose that one member of the Norwich Selectboard be charged with working closely with the town manager and other parties to assist with the definition and implementation of process associated with upgrading and maintenance of our town buildings. You and talked about this, and it was decided that it shouldn't go on the in October, we met with Studio Nexus, and I proposed again. We were debating next steps for the project, whose input or priorities. I recommended an advisory committee be formed. That was ignored, and we agreed that next step would be for Sincella to compile a list of options. That was in October. It was supposed to be here on December. The reason we are spinning our wheels is because nothing is happening that we've agreed to. So
we're drifting.
Let's make it happen. We have the expertise, we have the interest. For some reason, I'm not allowed to be the head of a group to get this thing, put some attention on it. I don't understand. If we want to make this happen, it's not hard.
Okay, but we're also not doing that tonight.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
we've heard it, we've listened to it, and we're going to have a fresh start after town meeting.
Yeah.
And also that I think to me, it's also a matter of passion, like with the Grange. you know, you had the pancake suppers for many years and then the place started kind of falling down around everybody. And now there's a lot of energy there. And I think you have to have that.
You got
As it
somebody
comes-
willing to expend
I know,
energy here.
he's like
Don't waste
rising in
it.
energy over
Don't
here.
waste it.
Right. So, okay, can we decide whether we'll do this repair and then keep our larger passions stoked up for the larger? Yes, go.
I move to approve the expenditure of up to $3,500 from the Tracy Hall Fund number 13 for the Tracy Hall roof repair.
Is there a second?
Second.
Okay. Further discussion? We've kind of gone around the motor bush, so.
I'd just like to put on, as we're discussing.
Yes.
I think it is important that we prioritize this as the topic of moving forward in the next, agendas.
Yes.
And I
Put it
do
at
think
the
that
top of our
I do think it's important to consider what chemo has offered to do. Because
Yes.
it'd be very helpful.
Very good. All right, well, let's vote. Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Emo, how do you vote?
No.
Okay. And Priscilla?
Yes, although this seems like a kind of vague contract, but
Okay. Matt?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. Okay, we can approve minutes. Anybody have amendments to suggest for the minutes?
I did.
Okay,
On item 7, I did, the last thing that says is that email. Do this without looking at it. 1 second. I got 7. Express concern that people would take this document to be the law. That one?
I think she's finding it here.
Yeah, finding it, sorry, just a little bit slow.
can I do something earlier?
Greg's expressed concern that people would take this document to be the law for Norwich and wanted to emphasize that it is a reference document, not the law. The last thing that I said was, it is the law. I didn't write the handbook out of whole cloth. I took copy and paste from the statute, and if anybody needs to know how to look up statute and compare it, I'll help them. But I think we just need to add that Marcia Alloway clarified that the handbook does copy and paste the statutes of Vermont. Let me do this again.
Wasn't it a statutory reference? And I remember Chemo saying, well, this isn't Norwich. Maybe that remark was more of that sort of just our normal personal experience of Norwich is not reflected in the formal language of statute. Is that how I understood what you said, or?
When we made a motion to adopt the document, we had very specific wording about how it was a reference. And I just wanted to, the way that the motion was worded last time, change the wording a little bit in such a way that I wanted to be sure we referred back to that original motion. That's all. That it's a reference for Norwich.
Right.
Yeah, it's not.
Well, it is a reference, but it's also the law because it's copies of statutes that I put in one place so that people who didn't know how to look up the law could find it.
And
So
also
it is the law.
In Jenny's minutes, how does it quote Chemo?
Griggs expressed concern that people would take this document to be the law for Norwich.
Because I don't remember him saying it in specifically that way.
I do, and wanted to emphasize that it is a reference document, not the law. And then I made a comment after that. I mean, we could clarify the whole thing by just getting rid of that sentence, or at least put in Marcia clarified that it is the law and that the Norwich Select Board is subject to the law. But I don't think anything like that is necessary if you just get rid of that sentence. I don't think, we've been over this so many times. Minutes don't have
My
to,
sentence that I put in,
yeah,
no,
okay.
it
Then,
reflects my concern.
well, I hope that you do understand where
When
to find
somebody,
the law.
well, when somebody comes to the future, says, this is how Norwich operates, that's not accurate. It's not the complete law. There are many things that are sort of abbreviated versions of statute. And there are some that may be interpreted differently by different people. So you have to go back to the statute in Vermont. This is a good reference to get you there, but you can't allow this to become the Bible for how things get done.
It's not the
Because
Bible.
it's not complete.
It's not the Bible. It's not the whole revised statute or Vermont statutes annotated. It is the statutes that refer to officers, open meeting law, all the things that we're constantly talking about. But it is the law. And it's not saying that it's, and then if you read the beginning of it, the preface explains that it has to be looked at all the time through fresh eyes. You should always look at the statutes every time. If you look up a statute in there, you should look at the law to make sure it hasn't changed, because they do change. But
Exactly.
it's an improper statement to say that it's not the law, because it is copies of statutes, which you can go to the library and compare.
Okay, well, I made the statement. I stand by the statement.
So let's just add line, which was added at the end, which was, it is the law of Vermont, and it is copies of the law of Vermont.
I can't remember. Did you say that during our last meeting?
I did say that. So whatever it is that I said, if that can just be added, that's great.
How do you all feel about just adding that language? You object or care one way or the other?
But I do understand what Kimo is saying, that it is a reference document. It
Right.
refers to a lot of things, including statute. And so but we're talking about minutes here and what people,
Right.
and the record of what people said, and not necessarily the accuracy of the statements.
Right.
So I don't know, splitting hairs.
What do you think, Priscilla?
I think that the minutes try to capture what was said, even if somebody makes a misstatement, which I don't think Kimo intended or actually did, but I mean, if I say something outrageous, I assume Jenny's gonna put it in the minutes. And it'll live there,
Right.
I mean, it seems somehow inappropriate to me that we're having this big discussion. So it feels like a whole new discussion about something.
It's like with diplomats, didn't they argue
It's
over
like
a couple of
we
words?
we had a discussion. If we want to have another discussion, we should warn it and have another discussion about it. But we're talking about something that happened in the past.
Also, we have the
There's the tape.
handbook. We have the handbook. It's a wonderful reference
Hmm.
when you need to know what the statutes are, but it's not going to be a cultural reference. It's not going to be the living fabric of Norwich. And that's okay. So does anyone object to what Marcia wanted to add? Strenuously? Okay, let's just do that then, and then we can move on.
Can I ask one other question under number 6,
Okay.
which is on
number 6.
page 109. In the second paragraph, which is large. Callaway noted 7 properties listed on Patriot Properties that were, quote, exempt off? OTH, what's that?
Oh, I think it was the abbreviation of like other, or at least that's
Look
what
at that list that Brennan's got.
Okay, so that's literally what the thing says. Okay,
that's what she said. I'm going off of.
Yeah.
okay, thank you.
Look at the.
Thank you.
OTH was the possibly a, what, just a shortened way of saying other. Okay. So that was item number 6. Anything else?
Make a motion?
Yes, please.
I move to approve the minutes for January 28, 2026 as amended.
Is there a second?
Second.
Any further discussion? Seeing none. Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Kimo?
Yes.
Ella?
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
And I'm yes, okay. And now we have the warrants. Someone want to move the warrant motion? You want me to move it or?
I move to approve AP warrant number 1452 in the amount of $113,550.72 to be paid from the general fund, and AP warrant number 1452 in the amount of $511.83 to be paid from the records restoration fund.
Is there a second? Second. Any discussion? Questions?
I can
Wait,
see.
hold on. So they're both 1452?
Oh, wait.
Oh, yeah, that's the same. Okay, it's the same.
Oh,
Oh, they're
Good
listed. That's
catch.
weird.
yeah,
Okay,
Restoration.
So it'd probably be 1452 and 1453.
three.
it's 1453, the records
Yeah,
fund.
well, I mean, it comes after.
Hold on, it's.
Does it not say it on
It's
the-
on the form.
Yeah, it's weird because it's
So Kimo's looking.
right there.
That's, yeah.
It's 1452 and then here it's, sorry.
That
it's
one-
also 1452, which is the
The
big.
two
big
different
one.
warrant or.
Yeah. Well, why don't we do this? I think that's a clerical error, probably. What
We have Lily's application here. But,
Let's see what's on that.
if I can find it among the 6,000.
Did it say what
That's not
warrant
gonna-
article? No,
Our
that wouldn't
application
say.
makes nothing.
Yeah, it's
has
not
nothing
It
to do
doesn't
with
say
warrant.
what warrant article it would
Or
be.
what fund it
Oh,
would be.
oh, yeah.
It says fund, but not warrant
You're
article.
right. You're right.
It's weird because I always thought that was
it's the
auto
warrant
generated.
article It says, and it's.
If we could, we can approve the warrants with the amounts and then subject to potential correction by the finance department on the warrant number.
Is there a hurry in either of these? Yeah,
Or we could approve the big one and,
approve the big one.
Okay.
and wait on the little one till it's corrected.
That's fine. We could do that.
I rescind.
I rescind my second.
Nice. I move to approve AP 1452 in the amount of $113,550.72 to be paid from the general fund.
Okay. Let's vote on that one. Marcia?
Did Marcia want to second it again?
Oh,
Second.
I think we, oh, okay.
Because he had to.
Because he's got a period after the first general fund.
All right, so you've withdrawn, right? I gotta back up here.
Yeah.
So we've properly withdrawn and did you approve the new version, Marcia?
I did.
Okay, so I think we're ready to vote, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
I mean, I just cannot
Yeah,
comment.
go ahead.
It's interesting to see, that some of you may have seen a picture in the Valley News of one of our big trucks with snowplows that went off the road during storm, and there was Chris Kaufman beside. And here we see what it took
Yeah.
to get the poor thing back up on the road.
Is that what it is?
I'm pretty
All the
sure.
stage and sun stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, ooh. Well, what a scary thing to be driving one of those things in a snowstorm, and where is the edge of the road anyway?
Exactly.
Yeah, and what is, I don't know, I probably shouldn't ask, Brookfield Service? Oh, they seem to be communications towers, okay.
Oh, those are for the the generators for the buildings.
Oh,
Generators.
and we paid Kurt's Heil Excavation, their monthly contract, two $9,000 checks for invoice or the same date? I mean, is that 2 months worth? I hope. It's done there twice for $9,000.
Yeah, I would assume that's what that is, Priscilla.
I mean, it's funny, it's entertaining. by the way, do you guys look at every line in this stuff? We can see what Pam Mullins' Goodbye Cake cost.
Right.
Well,
The reimbursement for it.
Well, yeah. I mean, I think that was a good thing to do.
Should we get her voting or do we want to?
I don't know what the legal services was, but
Are we sure that this is the right number?
For the general fund?
Yes.
Okay,
1452.
so,
The warrant report number.
1452.
Yeah,
Is that the correct one?
as far as I know, that's the first one. That would be
the
the,
first one is correct.
we'll just hold the smaller one until the next one.
Okay.
So-
It needs to be corrected.
Is there anything else to discuss about this warrant? Okay,
I
let's,
just like to comment.
okay, are you done?
I'm done.
Good. Marcia?
Yes.
Okay, Emo?
Yes.
Priscilla?
Yeah.
Matt?
Yes.
And I'm a yes. And then what shall we do about this other one? Like wait till the next meeting or what?
And why don't we just wait till the next one?
Okay, so we'll just move that one ahead.
Well, can we just authorize Mary to sign it when it's fixed?
You could do that. I could do it
If
more
it-
quickly that way.
Needs to be fixed, yes.
And how do we want to move that though?
I move to authorize the select board chair to approve the AP warrant,
To sign.
to assign the AP warrant in the amount of $511.83 for records restoration
Fund.
from the Records Restoration Fund.
Okay, how do we identify the warrant part of it? How do we express that we need the proper number for that?
It doesn't have a proper number. Well.
You can do the account,
Could say-
45-5.
Well, I think we will take it out of the Records Restoration Fund. Do you need a number in the motion?
Okay, but saying the records restoration fund would be helpful
Yeah.
because then that'll help identify it.
That was in the motion.
Okay. Okay. So that's, Marcia moved that
Second.
and Chemo seconded it, and let's vote. Marcia, how do you vote?
Oh, yes.
Pam had her hand up. I was
Oh,
gonna
I'm
say, if
sorry.
there's a discussion, she could offer whatever input she wants.
Pam, would you like to comment?
Yes,
Pam
thank you,
Smith?
Madam Chair. Yes, the chair is authorized for any off-cycle warrants, so you really don't need a motion. If there's an off-cycle payment being made, then you would just sign it.
Okay.
It's clearer this way.
It's sort of, there's a record of how we got here, I guess, but that's a good point, Pam. Okay, I think we were starting to vote here. Let's see. Marcia, how do you vote on this?
Yes.
And Chemo,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
Matt?
Yes.
Yes, so I'll sign that one in as ready. And then we have receipt of correspondence. So let me dig down, I can look down the correspondence for, yeah. Okay. So correspondence, we had from Kevin Geiger, Ms. Geiger, from TRORC requesting a select board agenda item in February to discuss the Tier 1B area to be created under Act 181. And that has resulted that we'll meet on February 25th, which we had talked about. And there was a memo on that. Matt Sweat, a link to an article from Vermont Public regarding how different Vermont communities are choosing to spend their opioid settlement money. 3 was Brennan Duffy in response to questions from Priscilla Vincent regarding the Cemetery Commission budget. Also, Articles 8, 9, and 10 from last year's warrant that with voter approval transferred out money from the general fund. And also about $150,000 dedicated to Fund 41. Number 4 was the actual questions that Priscilla posed. Number 5, State of Vermont Department of Taxes in regard to the 2025 reappraisal evaluation. And then number 6 was the actual results, the Norwich 2025 reappraisal evaluation results, which were deemed satisfactory. And then number 7 was the submission by Will Smith that was a posting to the Norwich listserv with several concerns about town governance, copied to the select board via selectboard@norwichvermont.us with a message to each select board member to please take notice of my requests. So I mentioned that at the beginning of the meeting. And I know Brennan has some things to say before.
Yeah,
Brennan.
I would like to comment on this one. And I actually, before I do, I was more intrigued that Pam Smith, Will Smith's husband or wife, was interested in having this removed from the packet. And she's on the line here. I don't know if she'd like to explain why she would reach out to the chair and request that this be removed.
Also, Will did as well. Pam, would you care to speak to that or not?
I think I did in my text to you, Mary.
I read the text to everybody.
Yeah.
We could do that.
Sure.
Because that would be, additional information. Oops. Uh-oh. What's going on here? Hang on. Let's see, open text messages. Let's see if we can do that. Okay, let me find it. Okay, so yesterday at 7:49 a.m., please ask the TM's office to remove pages 128 and 129 from the 2/11/26 packet. This was a misunderstanding of how the Vermont Public Record Act works, Vermont PRA works. If I had known in advance this was being sent, this error would have been avoided. Thanks for your help with this. And I wasn't quite sure how to sort it out, so I replied to Pam, thanks for your message. This one I'm kind of neutral, not quite sure. So I thought we should accept not sort of pull the message out. And I think Will has his point of view, which is pretty clear from what he said, both on the listserv and here. And the fact that it's landed here at least gives us a chance to say how we feel about the message. Whereas if it's on the listserv, it's really hard for us to respond in any way. So I thought it might have some value there.
Well, if I may.
Yeah, go ahead.
So I do appreciate that. I still didn't hear an explanation from Pam as to why she was writing to you asking to remove her husband's message. I'm still curious about that.
Well,
All right, well, apparently we're not going to get a response to that question. So I will say, since I was the target of this most recent defamation and potentially libelous attack from Mr. Smith, how disheartening it really is to see this kind of behavior just occur over and over and over again. It seems like almost every 3 months or 2 months on a cycle, there's this allegation of the town manager is incompetent. He's grossly overpaid. In this one, he was hired improperly, which we've heard on numerous occasions, and he doesn't live in Norwich. And these 4 complaints have appeared repeatedly in different forms. They've been published and propagated by a very small group of people regularly throughout the 3 years that I've served here as the town manager. We last had this kind of uncomfortable discussion back in June, on June 11th, and I responded to a similar listserv post that was particularly egregious, I felt, and needed to be addressed. It was an attempt to defame me And I read, I think at that point in that meeting, the definition of libel, which is a legal term. I'd like to read that again, just for the record. So this is coming from the Merriam-Webster Dictionary. Libel, a written or oral defamatory statement or representation that conveys an unjustly unfavorable impression. B is a statement or representation published without just cause, intending to expose another to public contempt. And the last one, defamation of a person by written or representational means. So we had that discussion at that point. It was uncomfortable, I think, for everybody. And there was no real resolution, but I feel like, again, time has passed and we're right back where we started there. I'd like to read the definition of rigged, which is a term that was used several times in Mr. Smith's published attack here. Rigged definition, this is again Merriam-Webster, manipulated or controlled by deception or dishonest means, which is a pretty strong term there. So I would look through this document that was sent to the listserv and read by many residents of Norwich, as it always is, and then placed apparently intentionally into the select board packet at 11 o'clock on Thursday, an hour before the deadline for packet materials to be submitted. The first half of it, I think, goes back to a period of time before I was here in the town. I'm not going to address that really. I will start here after the list of the select board members. Let's talk about the hiring of Brennan Duffy, name misspelled. And let's talk about the refusal to advertise the TM position prior to Mr. Duffy's hiring as interim town manager. And I want to be very clear that that was probably in November of 2022, because I started here in December of 2022. And I had no idea there was a town manager in Norwich. I didn't really know much about Norwich at all. I was living in Rutland. And so to make an allegation that there was some kind of a rigged hiring or that this position wasn't properly advertised, I know nothing about it. I know that when I saw the opportunity, it was posted on the Vermont League in Cities and Towns website. I submitted a resume and a cover letter. I was interviewed through a very formal process, and apparently the select board at that point thought I was worthy of a chance to serve as a town manager and gave me that opportunity as an interim. I then, served for about a year, and at that point, again, was hired to take on the full-time responsibility. I've been through, at this point, 2 different performance evaluations. Both of them were positive and satisfactory, and the most recent last October was to up my contract for additional time. I go down to the second to last paragraph here. So it's written here. Basically, I'm suggesting that Brennan Duffy's initial hiring was as an interim was rigged, and his hiring for the 2 full contract terms were rigged as well, in a 2-way conspiracy to get him job, pay him an exorbitant amount, and ignore his lack of experience and the skills needed to do the job. Again, those are kind of harsh words there, I think. And I will reiterate that I've been supported by 3 different boards over the 3 years that I've served here in the town. And those have, I think that speaks for itself. I won't address the last paragraph here because that's really kind of an attack on select board member Marcia Calloway, and that's probably up to her to respond to that if she wishes to. So that's the letter that was out there in the public. And again, I think it rises to the level of being libelous because I think a lot of it is not factually true. It's in fact proven not to be factually true. This political climate we're in right now makes me feel like this was somehow motivated with Pam Smith announcing that she was going to be a write-in candidate for the select board a day before this thing gets published into a written packet, and posted on the listserv. And, it's not just me, maybe as the town manager of the town of Norwich, I deserve to get this kind of treatment from members of the public, and I should just expect that. But this also trickles down to attacks on our department heads, people that we've hired that are staff working under me. I'll provide an example of this that I thought was truly egregious here. Back in 2024, Pam had been elected as the new chairperson of the board, and we had a meeting on March 27th. This is all recorded on the Jan TV website. If you go to the website and look up under that date. And as part of that, kind of out of the blue, her husband, Will Smith, started questioning pieces of what was being discussed. And I will just note at about an hour and 33 minutes into that recording that begins, he, in my opinion, went after Chris Kaufman, the director of the DPW, and made some really false and derogatory statements about his performance as the DPW director of the town, and was comparing him to the past DPW directors and the jobs they had done. And Pam, in that chair position, allowed him to do that, which I felt was really inappropriate at the time. Later in that meeting, if you look at the tape, at 3 hours and 54 minutes into that tape, Chris came back onto that meeting and wanted to defend himself. He wanted to refute those, what he thought were really false accusations about his performance. And he was cut short in that. And I thought that was also disappointing that the chair would allow her husband to speak in that manner about a employee in a public forum, and then not allow Chris the time to kind of refute what was being said about him. I can say that the next morning I spent a considerable amount of time trying to explain to the director what would have prompted this kind of inappropriate behavior, and that he was a valued member of the town of Norwich team, and we appreciated the work he did, and that this was really a very small group of people, or two people that were allowing this to go on. So I'm going to end this. I'm going to say that I continue to have some optimism. I think we've made great strides in the town over the last 3 years. I think we have created some stability, but when we have examples of things that go on in public meetings, like I just explained, and when we have these just recurring listserv postings that are attempting to disparage either me or other members of the town of Norwich staff, it makes it really challenging, to change that culture and that reputation that we have. I am also optimistic that the residents in Norwich are sophisticated enough to know that if we do want to move forward, we do need to elect people of high quality, who are thoughtful and ethical, and who are looking to serve this town without bias and personal alliances and personal agendas. So I'll end there. Thank you.
Marcia?
Obviously, I have to comment because I'm named here. Will Smith has a history of this type of inflammatory behavior in emails, which does nothing to encourage, as Brennan was saying, people to serve Norwich in any capacity, as we've seen play out in the past. As we have had to remind some members of the board, as well as members of the public, the law does not allow select board members to act on their own. The board must authorize anything that is done by an individual board member. Will's allegations of conspiracy fail in the face of facts, which are: the board decided to advertise for an interim town manager after the last one resigned. Brennan Duffy applied and was accepted as the interim manager. Any person, even people in Norwich, could have applied for the interim job. The board subsequently decided to appoint the interim town manager as town manager. And then the board the board decided to renew the town manager's contract. There was no conspiracy, just decisions by a majority of the select board carried out in executive sessions as is required for personnel matters. And those sessions are by law confidential. Will's representations are false, unwarranted, and damaging to the town.
Thank you, Marcia. I would like to say that I think we're all concerned about the listserv post that Will has submitted, but I will say that I don't think it's fair to sort of have it reflect on Pam quite so much. Pam has served this town in many capacities in a very able way, and she is a qualified candidate for select board. And so I just want to put that out there. We're kind of concerned about the Will posting, and it's not helpful for the tone of conversation in our town. To me, it's like a hot letter that, you know, I'm kind of concerned about some things and a little angry about some things. And in the old days, you would have put that maybe in your bureau drawer overnight, maybe, and then looked at it and think, well, it's really what I feel, but maybe I don't need to put it out to the public. And with email, it's all too easy to just go, click that little thing and have it go out. So I just wanted to say that. I'm also noticing that Pam would like to speak, so I'm going to call on her. Go ahead, Pam.
Thank you, Madam Chair, and thank you for recognizing my service to the town. One of the reasons that I wrote to you and asked you to remove this was, as Will explained to you in his email to you, was that he thought he was doing a public records request for that HR happens document. And when I asked him why would he post something like this and send it to the select board, he said, well, I'm doing a records request. And I said, well, no, that's not how we do that. And if I had not been at Tracy Hall working in the lister's office, I would have been home and might have had an opportunity to either prevent this from being sent in this way, or maybe had an opportunity to soften the tone. But my husband is his own person. He has his own opinions. He has a right as a US citizen to have the First Amendment right of free speech. That doesn't mean I agree with him. That doesn't mean that I was happy that he did this on the same day that I was announcing on the list that I was a write-in candidate for select board. And suffice it to say that we've had many discussions on this since this happened. And I'm very hopeful that these kinds of written outbursts will not happen in the future, that he understands that I have a desire to serve on the select board again, and that he needs to defer to me in my best judgment of how I would proceed in that role if I am elected, and that he needs to express his discontent or his concerns to me as his wife and not as a select board member. And we will just move forward as a couple, hopefully communicating better than we did on this particular incident or any of the previous ones. I don't know if the previous references were all directed toward things that my husband has done, but I do know he has on several occasions written things that I'm not in favor of. I don't agree with his opinion, but like I said, he's his own person. He has his opinion, and that, you know, I can't control him. That's not how marriages work. So I just want to say, I want to thank you for recognizing my service. I would like to continue serving this town, and I will continue on with my write-in campaign and asking people to support me based on my previous service, and they can judge for themselves if they think that I'm the right person for that role. Thank you again.
Thank you. And I do have a copy of the email that Will sent on February 7th. Greetings, Mary. Please remove my correspondence from the current select board packet. It was not my intent to have my listserv posts included as correspondence. I will submit a formal public records request for PRA at a later date. Thank you in advance for your willingness to help me correct the situation. Will Smith. So was what Pam was referencing there.
And I would also
So-
like to say, if I may add one more comment, I would like to apologize to Brennan if he feels that he has been defamed or those comments are libelous. I will not apologize for my husband. I will apologize for myself in that I do not share his viewpoints. And I hope that he and I can have a good working relationship going forward.
Okay, thank you, Pam. All right, we're kind of ending on a pretty somber note here. But I think it's good to talk about it.
Move to receive all correspondence.
Oh, yes, that's right. I put everything away. Yeah,
Second.
okay.
And I'll just comment that we made a decision a long time ago because we were getting a lot of particularly Pam and Priscilla were sending the select board a lot of communications that we decided needed to be in the public view. It didn't need to just come to the select board individually. And so I think you made the right decision. This needed to be, it was sent to the board, it should go into the packet. And that's what we
For a
decided.
number of reasons, I think it was appropriate to
Right.
keep it in there.
Because what we decided was if it goes to the board, it could go to the packet.
Yes. Through that email address.
Yeah.
Okay. Are we ready to vote on this?
Yes.
Okay, so Marcia,
Yes.
Chemo,
Yes.
Priscilla,
Yes.
Matt,
Yes.
and I'm yes. Okay, only one more motion to go here,
I
folks.
move to adjourn the meeting.
Second.
Okay. And let's vote on that. Marcia, how do you vote?
Yes.
Chemo,
Yes.
Priscilla?
Oh, yeah.